This is Module 8 on electronic information resources. First, let's talk generally about some characteristics of electronic information resources. Electronic resources are often some general information materials and then also often specialized information materials, which are used for fact-finding and for bibliographic resources. And electronic resources often mirror print collections. For example, if you have a print encyclopedia, you might also have an electronic encyclopedia. And if you have a print magazine collection, you also might have an electronic magazine collection. And there are also electronic periodical databases, which expands the kinds of periodicals that your students have available to use. They also may include online OPACs, online public access catalogs, where students can search and find print and electronic resources, and then selected websites that support learning and the curriculum. Electronic resources are different from print resources in that they can be used 24/7 outside the library, and they don't circulate in the same way that print resources circulate. So students typically use electronic information resources for quick and accurate identification for needed information. And typically electronic resources will be located in a distinct location, which is convenient for student use. For example, you can include electronic resources on the Media Center homepage and or bookmarks for specific sites such as the Kentucky Virtual Library and or any other K-12 oriented site. So you use specific electronic resources to serve specific information needs. For example, you would use online public access catalogs or OPACs to find resources in the library and what is available in other libraries for checkout, typically print materials, but sometimes print or electronic materials. For search engines, you use search engines to find websites, and websites are helpful for narrowing research questions and for determining the correct vocabulary to use for your information needs. Internet search engines are also useful for ready reference, but again, you need to be cautious about the authoritativeness of some of these sources. And then there are electronic reference tools, such as those you might find on the Kentucky Virtual Library. This is when the information need is very specific and can be answered by a specific reference tool, such as a dictionary, an almanac, a handbook, or an electronic encyclopedia. And this is typically when access to print reference is not possible or not convenient. Then we have Web 2.0 electronic resources, such as blobs and wikis. And these help in understanding what discussions exist related to the topic and if there's any social networking sites that have been created on the topic. But again, with the Web 2.0 tools, it's important to be cautious about the authoritativeness of the sources and issues related to children and social networking, such as online predators and cyber bullies. Electronic resources have expanded the quantity of information available to all of us, but not necessarily the quality. And this is one of the biggest issues in 21st century learning now, is not access to information, but the overwhelming access to information and how best to navigate effectively through these resources. So therefore, information literacy and digital information fluency are critical skills for using electronic resources. And the role of the media specialist has changed from being the source for direction to information resources to a guide to the best information resources for the information need. And therefore, providing instruction in information inquiry skills is a critical part of the library program. Electronic resources have really changed the way people use the library to find information. People no longer have to come to the library to use the library resources. There's a whole host of library resources now available on the internet outside the library walls. And so therefore libraries can provide a wider range of resources for patrons. And wide access to electronic resources have changed the way people search for information. They no longer have to go into the library and search the library catalog to find information. They can go straight to the internet and find a half a dozen to a million websites that are related to their information needs. So the problem is now not finding enough information, but finding good information. And librarians play a key role in leading people to the right electronic resources for the information that they need. One of the most important skills users of electronic resources must develop is the ability to effectively evaluate information resources. So to evaluate electronic information resources, we use the same evaluation criteria that we use for print resources with special format considerations. So we are still looking at the content, which means what is the intellectual subject matter of the item, the scope, how deep or broad does the information go, accuracy, how accurate and up-to-date is the information resource, authority, how authoritative are the authors of the information, bias, are there any advertisements or organizational biases built into the information resource, and then arrangement and presentation. How easy is it for users to navigate the electronic information resource? So there are a number of different sites that are evaluating sources of information, and I just selected a couple of them. The first one is OWL, the Online Writing Lab at Purdue University, and I will show that to you. This provides a very succinct but thorough overview of how to evaluate information resources. And then it also provides evaluation criteria for print versus internet, a number of different issues relating to evaluating sources. And I'm going to show you a site from Western Kentucky University. This one is specifically on how to evaluate web resources, and you can see the evaluation criteria is very similar to print evaluation criteria, but with specific format considerations in the design and presentation area. And then there's also specialists for evaluating blogs, because blogs have become an increasingly important information resource, as another site on information resources. So there's a number of sites that you can use for evaluating resources. Specifically, we must consider the issue of authority when we are trying to evaluate electronic resources. This is a very critical issue. One of the most critical issues in information literacy. So what is an authoritative resource? Because that concept is a little bit slippery. Authority is no longer confined to particular formats such as newspaper, books, or journals, because people can self-publish very easily. So these so there are books and journals and newspapers that don't go through an editorial or vetting process, and so you need to evaluate their authority. Typically, authority means that the item has been reviewed by a group of peers and the information contained in the item is correct. But, however, even if an item is considered authoritative, it may not represent a balanced point of view. For example, the information from Forbes magazine on a particular topic may be quite different from the information position of that same topic presented by Mother Jones. So information literate students must understand how to evaluate sources for authority using specific criteria, and this is and to develop this skill is called information fluency. That's when the accuracy, credibility, relevance is that students are able to do this, and they are also able to distinguish among facts, point of views, and opinions, and they have the ability to select the most useful resources for a particular information need. So when we are evaluating authority specifically, we need to identify who created the information source and if their biases skew the presentation of information. who is the individual or institution that is responsible for the information resource. If you look at a website from George Bush on the environment, it'll be different from a website from Al Gore. On politics, if you look at the New York Times opinion or stance on politics, it will be quite different from the Onion. Also in terms of current facts, if you look at Wikipedia or Britannica, there may be some variations in the facts that they present, since the information is developed and presented differently in these different encyclopedia resources. Also, if you're looking for information on the war in Iraq, CNN and Fox News may be presenting different points of view. Also, does the information source list the author's or institution's affiliation so that any potential bias can be determined? Is this information easy to find, or is it hidden somewhere in the website? What are the credentials of the authors, and how is their credibility established? Is it established through their educational credentials or their affiliation? And then, is there information on how to contact the authors? And how is the reputation of the organization established? Is the organization a business, a government agency, a nonprofit organization? And does the information item contain any advertising that might bias the information? For example, in a article about health and beauty, are there advertisements from Glamour magazine for beauty tips or cosmetics advertisements? And does the information present multiple points of view through a variety of information sources? You need to consider all these things when you are evaluating the authority of information resource. So when we have an information need, which information resource do we use? Online public access catalogs when we need print information or electronic information that may be available locally or through interlibrary loan. Electronic periodical databases when the information we need requires a variety of periodical sources. Information databases contained on government or non-governmental websites when we need different kinds of data that is typically collected by a government or non-governmental agency, such as U.S. Census data or data related to international development. And then electronic archives of specific periodicals when an information need is narrow enough to identify which periodical will likely contain the information. So this are some very specific guidelines for when students have a particular information need, which information source is the best one to go to first. And now, when we've decided upon our information source, what are some specific search strategies that we should consider before we begin our search? First, we need to make sure that the question is defined and refined before making decisions about how to go about searching for information. And it's important to be able to reduce ineffective searching by choosing the correct electronic resource and search terminology for the information need. And this is where vocabulary development becomes particularly important. For every electronic resource you are considering, review the advanced search functions of the tool, because this can help you develop more effective search strategies. And then you need to model effective search strategies for users, but don't do the searching for them. The goal of the search strategy is to produce low recall, high precision results. And this means that you recall in your search a manageable number of authoritative resources that are highly relevant to your information need. This is your goal when you're using information resources available electronically. Also, it's important to collaborate and communicate with teachers and students about their information needs so that some formal planning can take place. This will reduce a lot of time wasted by students not using the appropriate information resource for their information needs. And then really consider developing your own electronic resources such as virtual collections, pathfinders, and study guides for specific and recurring inquiry-based learning projects. And now we will look at some different kinds of electronic information resources and take a look at the search functions that you can use in order to do effective searching. The first one we're going to look at is an OPAC called WorldCat. And this is one of the largest electronic online public access catalogs in the world. It has a vast collection of both resources and information from the U.S. as well as all over the country and all over the world. And you notice that it has a very simple search, but then it can immediately allow you to narrow your search by format. But as always, I suggest that you study the advanced search function in order to learn how you can narrow your search so that you will have a low recall of very highly relevant results. And so see that you can narrow your research by year, and that becomes very important when you're looking for up-to-date information. You can narrow it by audience, juvenile or adult. You can narrow the content by type of content, the format by type of format, and then language. And then up here you have different options for searching. You can search by accession number, which is a special OCLC number. You can limit your search by author, by ISBN number. If you're looking for a particular, it will have an ISBN number, which is the International Standard Bibliographic Number. The ISSN number, and that's if you're looking for a periodical. They all have ISSN numbers. A journal source, so you can enter the title of a journal. A keyword, if you have very specific terms you're looking for, such as like the name of a disease. By subject heading, this is a controlled vocabulary, for example, Library of Congress subject headings or the Sears subject heading, and then you can narrow your search by title. So when you are searching for information, I suggest that you go directly to the advanced search page and narrow your searches here. The next resource we're going to look at is the Kentucky Virtual Library. This is a very important electronic resource that is provided by the state of Kentucky, and there are a number of resources that I'd like to show you. First of all, this search engine is called MetaLib, and it does federated searching in that it provides you, when you enter a search term, it provides results from a number of different sources that are available through the virtual library. And so to use the virtual library, you will need the ID and password that's provided to you by your school or that's provided to you by your local library. You can search through the Topper Information Portal, but it will only take you so far, so you need to get your other passwords in order to use the KYVL. So I'm going to demonstrate a search and show you how it does federated searching. So I'm searching for information on breeds of cats, and you will see that the virtual library is searching a number of different databases, EBSCO, Academic Search Premier, and then it's also searching WorldCat for print materials and something called Green File, and then it gives you ranked results from all the different databases. So I strongly suggest that you get some practice with using the Kentucky Virtual Library MetaLib. For finding information that's available through the library catalogs and also through the periodical databases provided by the KYVL. Another very important source for information specifically on Kentucky is the Kentuckiana Digital Library, particularly this area called the Kaleidoscope. It is an excellent resource for educators on themed collections related to the Kentucky curriculum. So you see early exploration, industrialization, the Civil War, all the topics that are typically covered in social studies. Very excellent resource. And then we have the Internet Research Guide, which provides you with an area called General Reference Information that has a number of different reference tools, things that you would typically find in print, have an electronic alternative, for example, the Farmer's Almanac. So when you are looking for electronic reference tools, this is an excellent place to bookmark. Okay, and then it has an excellent tutorials here for how to use the KYVL. And so these are excellent tutorials that you can use with students or that you can use yourself in order to learn how to use the resources from the KYVL. Then there is very important information and resources for students. For example, here's the Research Frontier page, which is a information research portal designed specifically for children, and it's a tutorial on how to go about doing research electronically. And it's very designed specifically for children, and very excellent source for getting them started with the research process. And then there's resources for middle school students, high school students, and college and university students. But I really wanted to direct you to the elementary school students research page, because I thought that's an excellent resource that's provided for us through the provider. And then I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the search engine Google. Probably you have used Google and just entered search terms in this way and got what we refer to as high recall, low precision results, which means that you have a lot of hits, but you have very few hits that are related to your research question. If you go directly to the advanced search page, it gives you all kinds of ways to narrow your results. For example, you can narrow your results to formats, and then you can also search within a particular domain. So if you only want to search within educational sites and or organizational sites, you can narrow your search right here. You can narrow your search by including exact phrases and excluding particular words. Like, let's say you want to find information on Mexico, but you don't want anything on New Mexico. Things like that. And then there are additional ways to narrow your search. You can narrow your search by date. And then you can narrow your search by where your keyword shows up, which is an excellent way to narrow your search. If you narrow it to the title of the page or the URL of the page, that really narrows what kind of information resources are returned to you. And then also you can narrow it by country. So those are all excellent means to refine your search, and this is found on the advanced search pages of Google. Then we have government websites. There are quite a number of different government websites that you can use to find information. And government websites are typically .gov in the United States. This is an example of a government website. This is the government portal. This is what the U.S. government would like you to use to find any kind of government information. So, and it's organized by age group, by type of person, government employees or businesses. It has an A to Z agency index. It has organizations by the type of government and by type of topic. It has site tutorials to help you learn how to search the information. And then let's enter in a search term such as taxes. And you will see that is where you can retrieve the advanced search functions. So again, this website has a way that you can narrow your search by file type, by a limit of different types of sites, excluding different types of sites, how you can search if you want to search within a particular region or domain or state. And if you want to search by exact phrase or if you want to exclude any particular phrases. So this is one of many government sites. This is the USA.gov, the web portal for the U.S. government. Then there are also a large number of non-governmental organizational sites, and the World Bank is just one. The World Bank contains quite a large variety of information, particularly related to international development. They have quite a lot of data and research, and then very specific country information. And then, as an example of an authoritative website, I have CNN. Many people use CNN as their online news source. And so, again, CNN is considered an authoritative site. However, it is important to take a look at the advertisements that are posted on CNN and to determine whether or not the advertisers have influenced the information posted on the website. So there's an examples of electronic information resources. We've reviewed the evaluation criteria for electronic information resources, and particularly criteria to consider when evaluating the authority of a website. Remember that the best way to go about refining your use of electronic information resources is to before you start the search process, to determine which electronic information resource is appropriate for the electronic information need. And then once you determine that resource, review and use the advanced search functions on those resources, remembering that your goal is for low recall, high precision results. And then analyze your resources according to the evaluation criteria. So this is the end of this module. We will have lots of practice with evaluating and locating information using electronic resources on our discussion board. And again, if you have questions, please post them, and I look forward to working with you online.